So they found that at Harvard and all the other studies I've done, hundreds of hours, is that people start off with a business model that works. And your business model is your profit model. It is the way that you organize your activities and your resources to earn profits. It's almost like a pipeline. It's the various things that you do or stages of the pipeline that lead to profitability. Now, what can happen is what is absolutely perfect and working wonderfully, like a BlackBerry telephone, can very quickly become obsolete and completely off the market. A company like Nokia, which had 49% of the world market in cell phones, was bankrupt in 5 years because the market changed and they did not. So I always give this little model and I say, how can you tell if you have a perfect business model? Which means that you're doing everything right in your business, like a production line, you're doing everything right. And the answer is that your sales and your profits are growing steadily and predictably every month, like an upward slope. Now, how can you tell if you may have problems with your business model, or you may need to step back and look at it, is that your sales are unpredictable. They are fluctuating like a roller coaster. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. The third way, which is worse, is that your sales are flat. And the worst of all is your sales are declining. Now, just about 2 years ago, it was a great example. McDonald's is the biggest restaurant company in the world, 36,000 units, 122 countries, and their business model slipped. And it started to become obsolete. And their sales, first of all, became unpredictable, then they flattened, and then they began to decline. 36,000 restaurants, the smartest people in the world, if you like, and they're sitting there, you know what, faced with a business model that was being obsoleted by a whole lot of other fast food companies. And so they had to sit down really seriously, and they did what almost all companies do, is they realize the person who is in charge of this business model is not the person who can change it. So they fired their chief executive, their president, all the people around them, brought in a new person. The new person says, the old ways don't work. We've got to make a transition, and we've got to make it quickly. And what they did is a couple of things, but the first thing, most prominent, is they dramatically decreased their offerings because they found that the cooks in McDonald's could not make, apparently, 104 different offerings. Imagine going up to the counter and shouting through the megaphone saying, I want one of these 104 different offerings, or I want 12 of them. The second, and so the quality was declining. The second thing was they decided to have all-day breakfast, which was revolutionary. Nobody ever thought about that. So now you can get breakfast at McDonald's 16 hours a day. And you know what? 36,000 restaurants, like a massive airplane, was going into a dive, and it pulled back out, and their sales went up 32% worldwide. Now that's very good. And that is an example of recognizing that things were wrong and changing the business model. Now, according to Harvard and according to everything that Don has ever taught, the biggest enemy for success for us is the comfort zone. Is we have a natural tendency as human beings to become comfortable doing things the way we started off doing them. And we fight, we resist bitterly change of any kind, even good change. Even if it's not working, even if we're unhappy and frustrated, someone says, well, why don't we do this rather than that? We fight them on it. So one of the first things that you have to do is you have to get out of the comfort zone. And they found for the Fortune 500 companies, slipping into the comfort zone at the senior executive level was the major single obstacle to change. Again, using examples like Nokia and BlackBerry, two of my favorite examples, they all saw the writing on the wall. As disruption in the business had occurred, sales were declining, the iPhone and the Samsung phones were much more popular, and they just kept fighting to do it the old way until they're gone forever. So my rule is this, and I learned this as a young man in my teens, is always be open to the possibility that you could be wrong. Always be open to the possibility that there could be a better way to do your business. Always be open to the possibility that what you're doing now is wrong. It's just not correct, or it's not as good as it could be. Now, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your business, and I'm sure that your businesses are all excellent. Being open to the possibility is the key to the most superior thinking for the most profitable and successful business people in every industry worldwide. They're always open to the possibility that there may be a different or a better way. Sometimes, by the way, I ask these questions. I say, and these are the basic business questions, what are we trying to do? And then you think about that. Well, we're trying to generate sales and profitability and a good standard of living for ourselves as owners and so on. And how are we trying to do it? Well, this is what we are doing now. This is our process, our business model. These are the things that we do each day. And then here's the other question is, could there be a better way? And when you hear that question, it's like a slap in the face, because there can always be a better way. And just being open to that gives you an edge over your competitors and gives you an edge for the future. There's only one question that you ask in business, and that is, does it work? Is it working? Is it giving us the results that we expected or anticipated? Is it giving us the same results that we were getting before? And if it's not, then be open to the possibility that there could be a better way to work. Now, when I began my seminar on business model reinvention, I found that the keys to a great business of any kind were what I call the 7 greats. And so I began to teach this, and I've had companies team walked out of my seminars and transformed their business. Literally, sometimes just tore it down and rebuilt it, changed their product, services, markets, customers, offerings, anything else, with the 7 greats. Actually, there's 10 greats, but I'll just give you the 7 greats quickly, and then I'm going to give you some ideas on making more money. The first great is good companies have great leadership. They have great leadership. The very best and most successful branches of stores, shops, gyms, health food, they always have great leadership. It seems to be number one. It's almost like without that, nothing else is possible. That's why when a sports team starts losing games, they don't fire the bat boys or the field. They fire the general manager. They fire the leader. And a new leader comes in, and suddenly a struggling sports team becomes a world champion. Now, they've just completed the biggest and best study on business success that's ever been done in history. It's not even been written up yet. It's only been reported on in some of the journals. And look, they looked at 22,000 businesses in 20 countries. They had 150 researchers from different universities work together for 12 years. And what they came up with is 80% of all business success is explained by 3 factors. And that's all you have to do is look at the 3 factors plus 1. Factor number 1 is clear goals and objectives. Is in the best businesses, the company had very clear goals for the coming fiscal period. And every single person in the company had clear written goals and plans that tied in and harmonized with the overall goal for the company. And you could ask any person in the company, what are your specific goals for your job in this time period? And everybody knew. So they spent a lot of time talking about goals. And the most important word of all is clarity. 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 You and each person has to be absolutely clear about your goals. And that led to the second thing that they found was measures and standards and numbers. They found that every successful company, each person had very clear goals and they had very clear measures for how to attain those goals. And everybody knew how to measure their success every single day, right down to the number of calls they made, number of callbacks, the amount of time. Jeff Bezos, if you've been reading recently, has just become the 3rd richest man in the world. He just replaced Warren Buffett. And before, last year, he was number 7. Before that, he was number 26. Now number 3 as of last week because of Amazon shares. And why is he so successful? If anybody asks him, they will say because he measures everything. He has clear goals and measures for every activity, right down to picking up the package and putting it on the production line, to stamping, shipping, mailing. He measures everything in Amazon by seconds. And he's always looking for a way to save seconds in the production process. And his number 1 focus is speed of delivery. That's all he thinks about is speed of delivery. It's made him the 3rd richest man in the world, and it has set standards for virtually every other company that wants to compete with him or in any other area is doing things fast. So number 1 is goals. Number 2 is measures and standards. Number 3 is deadlines, timelines and deadlines. Every single person knows exactly what they're expected to do and how it will be measured and when it is due. Now, the fourth is rewards, as there are substantial rewards for people who achieve high performance. And so my discovery in the last few years has been a concept called management by measurement. And what they have found is that you can measure every single activity, and if you measure it, there's a rule that what gets measured gets done. If people know exactly what they're supposed to attain and by what time and how it will be measured, productivity goes up 5 or 10 times. Also, morale goes up. You know, Don and I have talked about this, but the highest level of management is you make everybody feel like a winner. Everybody who comes to work, comes to work out, comes to work in the gym, feels like a winner. Now, how do you get your staff to feel like winners? Well, a very simple thing is you allow them to win. Now, how do you allow them to win? Is you set up starting lines and finish lines in every single task. Because human beings are designed so when they start and finish a task that is clear and measurable, they feel like winners. Their self-esteem goes up. They feel happy. They laugh out loud. I mean, it's the most wonderful thing is that really good companies and individuals are always setting it up so people are always winning. Now, the most demoralized people are people who work in an organization where there's no clear beginning, middle, or end. One of the questions I often ask my audience is, I said, based on this, has anybody ever seen a happy government employee? And the whole audience laughs. You cannot even imagine a happy government employee. And why is that? It's because their jobs have no beginning, middle, or end. They go around in an endless bureaucratic circle, like the horse pulling the grinding wheel. At the end of the day, they unhitch from the grinding wheel and go home. Then they come back in the morning, they hitch up again. And that's why they're all so miserable. They're just not happy because they never feel like winners. They just feel like workers. And that's why they have to pay them more and more money to stay at their jobs, because the jobs are so demotivating. Anyway, so leadership is number one, and your job as the leader, and no one else can do that, is to set the standards, set the goals, set the measures, set the deadlines, and then keep everybody's feet to the fire. You don't have to beat them up, you just urge. And what I call it, this is management by goals. And the way that you manage by goals is you say, how's it going? Based on the goals, how's everything going? How can I help you? So it's a very gentle, it's a very supportive, very friendly form of management. As long as everybody's clear about the goals, basically people manage themselves. Now the second part of business model reinvention, I call it a great product or service. 90% of your success will be determined by the quality of your product or service in the perception of the purchaser. So they did a study with the founders of the Inc. 500 companies, the 500 fastest growing companies in America over 3 years. The company that won, by the way, I really love this study, had grown 42,000% in 3 years. 4,200 times from an idea, and literally the company exploded like an atomic bomb. And why? Because of the quality of their product. So anyway, they asked the founders and the presidents of these fastest growing companies in the world, if you had a big chunk of money to invest in improving your business, how would you spend it? You know what they all said? I'd invest in improving the quality of my business. I'd improve the quality of the products. We put all the money back into quality because there's nothing that will increase your sales and your customer satisfaction more than higher quality products. And now the question is, what is in the eyes and hearts of our customers a quality? How do they denote it? And that's a whole another thing, because sometimes people work very hard to produce quality in an area that members don't care about. The company owner thinks it's a great idea, but the member doesn't really care. It does not increase the perceived value of the membership. It's something else. So you have to ask. Now, I have a little thing that I do is I say to my audiences, and I speak to mostly business audiences like yourself, I say, I have been interviewing your customers before I came here today. And of course, they don't believe that. And I say, and I have been talking to them, and I have found a most remarkable thing. And it is this, is that all your customers want you to be rich. That's all they think about. They want you to be rich. They want each one of you to be rich in your business. And of course, everybody stops and says, they're thinking, what the heck is he talking about? And I said, and they want you to be rich by making them happy. That's all. Just make them happy. And if you make them happy, they'll buy from you and buy again and bring their friends and stay with you indefinitely. And you'll get rich. So if you want to know how to get rich, go and ask your customers, how can we make you happy? It's a very simple thing. And you know what? They'll tell you. Ask them all the time. And that's what more and more of you are doing, more and more good companies are doing, is they don't ask them once a year in an internet questionnaire, fill out these 725 questions and we'll send you a 10-cent bonus or something like that. Is they just ask them all the time, what can we do to make you happy? And here's what Don and I were talking about recently, and it's a book that I'm going to write. And every time I explain it to people, they say, this is a great subject. And I call it the factor. The factor, ER. Now, ER in English is the comparative. And so I said, everything in business depends upon the ER factor. For a member to join you for the first time and stay with you, you have to make them happy. The ultimate aim of all of human life is to be happy. We are happy when we feel that our lives or our bodies are improving. Improvement is the great inner drive of all action. That's why people will sweat and work out and strain and starve and everything else. They'll pay any price for a perceived improvement. And so improvement is the only thing that people ever buy in any product or service. So it has to be clear what improvement does becoming a member make, because that's the only thing they buy. They buy actually hope. They buy hope that by being a member, they will get this improvement, especially physically. And so you have to make them happy. And when they do come to you, they have to be happy. They have to say, I'm happy I came here. Because if they're not happy, they'll be gone like a puff of smoke, and they'll never be back. So now we find that we have competitors. Another thing I sometimes ask my audience, I said, you know something? I've been studying your business, and I've been looking at the yellow pages, and I found that there are other companies in this very city that sell your same product. Did you know that? And they all go, ho, 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 ho. I said, I was dealing with a client recently. He's got 55% of the market, and he has 306 competitors who sell similar products at lower prices. 306 highly aggressive manufacturing, production, delivery companies that sell similar products to him. He's got 55% of the market. Now, why is this? Well, I've done a lot of strategic planning with him, and can you guess what the reason is? Because not only do they make their customers happy, they make them happier than their competitors. And you start thinking, in life, in business, everything is the factor, the You serve them warmer and friendlier, and you serve them faster and easier and convenienter, if you like. Every single factor that's of value to a customer, your competitors will offer very quickly if they aren't already. So your job has to find out what is the that is most important to your members. And then focus and constantly focus, just like Jeff Bezos, when he started off Amazon with this idea of selling books by mail, by delivery, so people didn't have to go to bookstores. Before the dust was settled, half the bookstores in America were gone. And when you bought a book from Amazon in the old days, it took 5 to 7 days to deliver. But since you were really busy, you ordered it online, you're not going to have a chance to read it anyway, so that was fine. And you got 30% off. So bit by bit, people started to buy books. And then he had this idea, well, it's a distribution channel, like a pipeline. We could put other products into the same channel, sell them the same way, and deliver them with the same speed, and give discounted prices. Abracadabra, third richest man in the world, worth something like $56 billion now, which would tend to suggest that he had the right idea. But all he thinks about today is faster. And from 5 to 7 days to 6 days to 5 days to 4 days to 3 days to 2 days to 1 day. And now, I just ordered something the other day, and they said, do you want same-day delivery? I ordered a book. Same-day delivery is $5.99, special bonus price, and if you order it in the morning, it'll be there in the afternoon. Now, the next thing you talk about, which you've heard, is the drones. Now, because they're thinking, now, how about 1 hour delivery? What if you could order one of thousands or hundreds of thousands of products and have it delivered in 60 minutes? It's just mind-blowing what they're doing. But everything that Jeff Bezos has done to become the third richest man in the world has been based on the Earth factor. And he's decided that what people want, once they've decided to buy a product, they want it fast. You know, Tony Hsieh with Zappos, exactly the same thing. What they wanted was a great selection, good prices, and fast, overnight. So the joke, I say the joke with Zappos is you pull it up on your computer, you pick a pair of shoes that you want, and you press purchase, and you have to run to the door because the shoes will be there. That's how fast they deliver them. It's just, if you ever never bought from Zappos, do up your seatbelt when you do, because it's the most remarkable experience. Everybody goes back. So my point is with regard to your product, and your product is primarily emotional. You're not really selling a physical product. You're selling a feeling. You're selling how people hope they will feel as a result of the way they look and the way they exercise. And so the warmth of the product, this is just my opinion, the warmth of the way that the services are delivered and making it warmer and friendlier and more positive and more supportive and always looking for little ways to just tweak it so it's a little bit more attractive, enjoyable, and so on. That's really the keys to getting and keeping customers. And that is what people will talk about all the time. Why do you go there? Oh, they're the nicest people. They're much nicer than anyone else. They are such nice people. It's such a warm environment. The people you meet there are such nice people. Anyway, in other words, this is the reason they buy. They don't buy because of the drinks and the equipment and the pain and everything else. They buy because of the warmth of the people. Anyway, the third part of making a successful business is marketing. And marketing, we say great marketing. Every good company has a great marketing strategy. And I can talk about this for days. But what we come right down to is the most important part is called the value proposition. And there's libraries of books on this, and I read it, and I teach it, and I talk about it. But people don't buy the product or service. They buy what it does to change or improve their lives, as I said. So when someone says, what is your product, you have to answer that by talking about the transformation or the improvement that takes place in the life of the member as a result of coming to your gym or to your facility. So what is it? And we've also found this, and I spent fortune on this, is that people buy for many reasons, but there's always one main reason. It's the one thing that they want and expect to get that's more important than everything else. And if you advertise the wrong thing, which many companies do, is there's no response in the market. You run an advertisement of any kind, and there's no response. Well, why is that? Because it wasn't that distinct value proposition that the customer wanted. I can give you some examples. One of my favorite examples is a very short advertisement on television. All right? It will say, lose 30 pounds in 30 days, guaranteed, or your money back. Call this number. Now that is a 10-second ad, or maybe 5-second ad. That will cause half of the people for whom weight loss is a real concern to jerk. I mean, almost like they've been hooked up to an electrode. They'll jerk when they see that ad, and many of them will reach for their phones to find out information. So what they have done in that ad, as an example, is they have connected, they've gone past the head, because if you think about the offering, it's hard, really hard to achieve unless you're put in a concentration camp and starve for 30 days. But the thing is, it connects instantly and emotionally with something that people really, really want, and they want now. So good advertising has a value proposition that is so clear and distinct that people see it and they instantly want it. They don't even think, well, I wonder if it's a good idea and how much does it cost. As a matter of fact, if your value proposition is good enough, the price almost disappears as a concern. People say, I want it, before they even know the price. People are actually willing to sign up before they even know the price. They don't care about the price. They care about the value that they're going to get. And so just always think of that when if someone were to ask you, what do you do? And imagine you're standing in a bus stop or sitting on an airplane, and someone says, "What do you do?" Well, what you have to do is describe your work in terms of the result or benefit or transformation or change that it takes place in people's lives. And that's what people buy, is we help people achieve wonderful levels of fitness, lose weight, feel wonderful about themselves. Isn't that what you do? Yes, it is. That's all that people buy. They don't buy any physical things. They only buy looking good and feeling wonderful about themselves. So that's all you do. What happens if you go there is you feel terrific, you look good, and you feel terrific about yourself. And simultaneously, you get your weight down to your perfect weight and keep it there forever. That, to me, is basically really attractive. That'll bring people stopping their cars on the freeway and running across to buy it. So the third great is what I call great people selections. Great people, great staff. And this is, of course, every single good company has become a good company to the degree to which they recruit really good people. And the key to recruiting good people is go right back to leadership. Give them really clear goals, clear measures, clear deadlines, and then reward the hell out of them if they do great jobs. I remember I used to work for a company that became the biggest real estate home developer in its market, starting as an idea. And what they had in the company is they had excellent service, excellent performance was accepted. That was the norm. At that, doing an excellent job, you did not get any extra pay. You kept your job. And then they had wow, double wow, and super wow. And I still remember this. And they set very, very clear numbers for each of these. So if you excellent was required to keep your job. Wow was where you got bonuses and got promotions. Double wow is where you really moved ahead. Triple wow is you became a hero in the company. And they sent you and your spouse on vacations and all kinds of things. And I always loved that. Wow, excellent is only normal. And then wow, double wow, and triple wow. There's nothing that motivates people to high performance more than rewards. I just finished a program on that yesterday, and I said, talking about management and motivation. I said incentives are the primary motivation of all human performance and behavior. So always be thinking of incentives. And by the way, the incentives don't have to cost a lot of money. You don't have to buy people cars and things like that. Sometimes they can be being taken out for lunch by the owner. Sometimes they can be a hand of applause in front of all the staff for having accomplished something great. They can be intangible because it's the emotion that makes the reward so significant. Well, the fifth great is great sales. Great sales and great and proven process. I have worked with countless companies who, and I've seen them, including fitness studios, where a person would walk in as a result of their advertising or referrals or something else, and the sales presentation by the person behind the counter, physically fit, wearing a tight t-shirt and looking good and everything else, the sales presentation sucked. I remember walking into a fitness studio and I wanted to join. It was right next to my office. I believe in fitness. I love fitness. I've been a fitness fanatic all my life. I exercise every single day. I swam half a mile yesterday. It took me 50 minutes because for some reason the pool was uphill in both directions. Any swimmer knows what I'm talking about there. Today the pool was uphill. Anyway, I'll swim a mile tomorrow morning. So I'm a fanatic on this, but I went in there to sign up. I wanted to join. I like to join. And they said, well, let us take you on the tour. I said, well, I'm working. I said, I don't really need the tour. Just tell me the prices and everything else, and I'll join. I've got my credit card. I took up my credit card. I'm ready to join now. They said, no, we can't do it that way. We have to give you the tour. I said, I don't have time for a tour. How long does it take? Only about 20 or 30 minutes. I said, look, I got to go back to my office. He said, no, but you have to have the tour. So when can you come back and have the tour? I said, I just want to use your facilities, for heaven's sakes. I'll pay you whatever you like because it's convenient. No, I'm sorry. You have to have the tour. I ran screaming from that place and I never went back. And my point is that sometimes you have a fabulous facility and you have everything that people need to improve their lives dramatically, but the people who are selling it are not selling it well. Now, I'm not going to comment any more on that because I don't know your sales process, and if Donna is running it, I'm sure it's really excellent. But here's one point, is every sales process can be improved. Every sales process can be improved. By the way, how do you tell how good a business is? And there's a very simple sort of a series of questions when we say, what is the purpose of a business? And according to Peter Drucker, the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. Now, I heard another definition when I was studying on customer resales and retention a couple of weeks ago, and I just about fell off my chair when I was reading it. It said, they asked the person, what is the purpose of your business? He said, the purpose of our business is to create customers who create more customers. Oh, I love that. Oh, to create customers who create more customers. Now, this brings us, let me just do a quick aside. When Dawn and I were talking about this, I was explaining to her something that I've developed, and I'm very excited about it, because I think it's a really creative way of looking at business, and I call it the upstream, downstream model of business. And so if you could imagine a stream, let's say, I guess, a river flowing, and right in the middle of the river, there's a big rock, okay? And so you have the upstream part before the rock, and then you have the downstream. The rock is the actual sale, where the person takes out their credit card and signs up and joins as a member. That's the rock. Okay, but before that happens, as a friend of mine once said, before you do anything, you have to do something else first. Before the person buys, there's a series of things that you need to do. The promotion, the meeting, the greeting, the explanation, the answering the questions, the getting them to get started for the first time, and so on. So I say there's actually 7 steps in the sales process that lead to the sale. That's upstream. Now, downstream, there's another 7 steps that determine whether this person stays, whether they rejoin when their membership is up, whether they bring other people, whether they use the facility. So all the things that happen downstream. And these downstream things are what the most successful companies in the world do. Again, simple example, Jeff Bezos. First of all, he gets them to buy the book, but then look at everything that happens after you buy a book. You get special recommendations of books that are in the same genre of the book that you bought that you might be interested in. Very gentle suggestions. They just pop up when you go back on there and looks at all the different things that he can send you that you might be interested in, that you've already indicated that you are interested in. So there's a very gentle kind of sell, and it goes on to make him one of the richest people in the history of the world. So that Bezos, is really great about upstream. Come to us, you get fast service at low prices, unconditionally guaranteed. Downstream of all the different things that you can do to get the customer to come again. So this brings us back to the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer, or in this case, is to create members who create members. And I'll talk to you about that in a second because it's such a fun concept. And so how do you measure the success of your business? And the answer is member satisfaction. And how do you measure member satisfaction? And the answer is repetitive memberships or continually re-enrolling. And the highest of all is they bring their friends. And insist that they enroll as well. So how do you tell the future of your business is what percentage of your members come from re-ups or rejoining and referrals. What percentage? So you look at the total percentage that you have, and which of those percentages, you see, you can always get the customer the first time. You all know about all the weight loss programs and New Year's resolutions and everything else. You can always get the person in the door the first time, especially after the Christmas holidays. The question is, do they stay? And do they keep coming back? And do they take full use? And do they rejoin over and over? But the highest of all, the great cheer on the Olympic stands, the gold medal, is where they bring their friends and they sell their friends. So every single member becomes a salesperson for you. Now here's another interesting thing is that, and I've just been quite astonished as I go more and more into this, is you cannot expect your happy members just to bring you referrals and recommendations. You actually have to very gently train them, teach them to be able to identify a person who would be a perfect new member, is to how to recommend to that person that they come. Because your members are not salespeople. They're not going to go up there and say, hey, let me give you a presentation on my membership and so on. What you have to do, there's a very simple way that you have to train your members very gently so they know exactly how to identify other possible members and how in a very gentle way to steer them to you. So we call this selling without selling. No pressure, low pressure, is people just kind of introduce. So they're really not making sales, they're just kind of passing on their own positive experience, which ends up them buying from you. So the magic number is 85%. Is when your business has been in business for 3 years, and 3 years seems to be the magic number, 85% of your business should be coming from resales and referrals, recommendations. Now, if it's not, then the question you ask is, why isn't it? Why isn't it? And always you assume that if it's not happening, I am responsible. I'm 100% responsible. So if I'm not getting a steady stream of resales and referrals, why not? Why not? And then you start to sit and you open your eyes and get out of your comfort zone and you talk to other people, especially people who have a lot of resales and referrals. You ask them, what are you doing differently? And I have developed a formula when I was coaching business owners some years ago. I say there's only 4 ways to change your life or your business. And no matter what it is in life, there's only 4 ways. The first way is to do more of something. And what is it that you should be doing more of? You should be doing more of something that works. Doing more of the things that work the very best for you. Whether it's advertising, promotion, personal interaction, talking, counseling, whatever it happens to be, there are things that work really well for you. And the most amazing thing, and even Drucker pointed this out, is that if you have 10 things to do in the course of a day, what most people do is instead of picking the 1 or 2 things that are more important and valuable than anything else, they have this idea that in order to be fair to these items, each item should get the same amount of time. It's almost like having children. You should give the same amount of time to each child. So it's amazing how many people running businesses are giving the same amount of time to things that are of little use or value at all, and they're giving the same amount of time to something that's extraordinarily important. So what you do is you just flip it, and you do more of those things that are giving you the best results. So the second way to change is you do less of other things. And what do you do less of? Well, it's quite obvious. You do less of those things that are giving you poor results or no results at all. Again, another piece of advice from Drucker, he said, if it's not working, stop it. Discontinue it completely. He said, don't cut back on something that doesn't work. Don't cut back on a product that doesn't sell. Discontinue it. He said, tear it. Cut it off completely, and so you can have more time to do the things that are giving you the best results. And it's amazing how people will put a time-wasting activity on life support, and they just keep it going. They just keep engaging in the time-wasting activity. It's almost like they have to be fair. You know, this one activity is really productive, and the other one wastes time. But they're kind of like children. So I'll spend time. They get on the internet and they play on the internet. We say social networking is social not working. And they think that playing on the internet is going to cause people to kind of stop their cars and come running in to join. And these people need some counseling. So anyway, in sales, what you want is you want people to buy and buy again and bring their friends and become salespeople for you. That's the downstream part that will actually make you rich. You can never get rich with the upstream. All you can do is get a customer with a bonus or a discount or something else. All the riches in the business come from really, really working on the downstream part. Get them to come again and bring all their friends. Oh, Donna and I were talking about something which I like to share with my companies, my business owners. And I said, we'll ask, tell me, I said, imagine that you took such good care of a member, and that member was so happy that over the course of the next 12 months, they brought you one more member who spent the same amount of money. What would that do to the size of your business if each member brought you one more member over the course of a year? And they look at me and I say, okay, I'll show you this. I hold up one finger, 1 plus 1 equals, and they say, 2. They say double? I said, yes, that's right. If each happy customer brings you one more happy member, that will double the size of your business. And they say nod and smile, and they sort of shake hands with each other that they managed to figure out this complex mathematical formula. And then I say, so what happens if your customers are so happy that they bring you one new person every 6 months? Now that's not very many. Do you know that each person has what is called a circle of influence? A circle of influence is about 300 people. Those are the people that each person knows by their first name. Now, those of you who are owners and busy, you may know 500 or 1,000 people by their first name. Really busy business people know lots more people. Politicians sometimes don't know the names of 5,000 people by their first name. Hollywood talent agents remember names for years because that's their business. So the average person who comes as a member knows 300 people. Now let us say that since birds of a feather flock together, let's say that each person knows 10% of the people that they know in their circle of influence are possible members. Well, 10% of 300, that's right, it's 30, okay? So that every person who joins, or even is thinking of joining, is potentially worth 30 more members. So what I do, and Stu Leonard, who built the most successful grocery store in the history of the world in Norwalk, Connecticut, he would tell every single person to imagine that every single customer who came in the door had a sign on their forehead that said $50,000. He had calculated that a happy customer would buy once a week for 10 years, and they would spend an average of $100 a week. Today it's probably double. So therefore, every person was to treat every customer as though they had $50,000 to spend. And so every person who came into the store was treated like, OMG, OMG, this is a $50,000 customer just walked in the door. And they would be so nice and so accommodating. They'd take care of their kids. They'd get them a cup of coffee. People would go out and say, you won't believe the way they treat you at this grocery store. And so these people became their primary salespeople. And people were coming from miles on. They had to build bigger and bigger. They had this grocery store was the size of an airplane hangar. And it was jammed. And so they hired Disney figures, dancing bears and clowns to take care of the kids, and music and special sales and balloons and everything else. People were coming from 50 miles around, jamming the parking lot, filling that store, filling their shopping carts with everything they possibly could, and then going out and telling everybody else. He became one of the richest grocery operators, and he started with a 7-Eleven store in a little gravel parking lot with that philosophy. Anyway, so imagine that they bring you one person every 6 months. So let's just start to continue the process. What if each happy member brought you one new happy member, or potentially happy member, every 3 months? Well, that would be 1 plus 4 equals, your business would grow 5 times. What if every happy member was so happy, since they're coming on a regular basis, and you have a chance to interact with them and so on? What if every happy member brought you one new member every month? Well, that would be 1 plus 12. Okay, that's 13 times your business would grow in 1 year. Now, let's go crazy with this. And we say, well, what if every happy member brought you one more happy member every month? So one happy member brings you 12 happy members, and each of those members brings you one happy member per month. That's 144, 12 times 12, plus 1. That means one happy member can potentially bring you 145 members. And people say, like the teenagers say, SMH, SMH, shaking my head, shaking my head. That's not possible. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. And then I reach into my pocket and I pull out my iPhone. When this came out, everybody said it wouldn't work. It was a child's toy. It was a plaything. The Nokia people and the BlackBerry people, they said dismissed it. They said it was a child's thing. It'll temporary fad. People will stop using it. And what they didn't realize is the world had changed forever. And then what happened? Is they sold 50 million of these, and then 100 million, and then 200 million, and then 500 million. They're approaching 1 billion sales because everybody who bought an iPhone ran out and told everybody else to buy an iPhone and made it the richest company in the world. So when I say this, would it be possible for you to organize your customer service in such a way that people were so happy they would spontaneously bring you one new person a year, two new people a year, three new people a year? The fact that you can define this means that you can do it. If you can define the problem, you can solve the problem. If you can define the goal, you can achieve the goal. And the only question that you ask is how? How? Now, the other thing you can ask is, if they're not already bringing you one new customer per month, why not? Well, just please explain to me. You're on the witness stand now, and the prosecutor is cross-examining you. And please, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, could you please tell us why is it that your members are not bringing you one new member per month? Could you please tell the members of the jury? And it's kind of like a funny exercise, because the wonderful thing is that if you can define it clearly, then what you do is you go back to the factor. And you said, well, maybe we need to service them faster, or maybe we need to respond to their concerns quicker, or maybe we need to make things easier, or maybe we need to make things more convenient. And then you go to your customers who want you to be rich, and you say, what would we have to do to make this one of the best experiences of your life every time you came here? And you know what? Customers are wonderful. They'll tell you straight. They don't say, oh, let me think about it. I don't know. It's a secret. Oh, if you ask, they'll tell you straight. Well, if you did more of this or less of that, and the other two ways to change, by the way, is you can start doing something that you've never done before, or you can stop doing something completely. So they will tell you, when you ask your customers, what will we have to do to make you so happy that you came again and again and you brought your friends? And they will say this, well, if you did more of this or less of that, or if you started doing this or stopped doing that, I'd be bringing people here all the time. And you know what? This works. I have a good client. I have two clients, as a matter of fact. I taught this more than a year ago to my clients in Stockholm at a large business seminar. And I was just playing with this idea about multiple customers coming from a single customer. And one client came back to me about 9 months later when I was back in Stockholm, and he said, let me tell you my story. He said, we had never heard that idea about referrals before. And so we went back and we just stopped the company, we all sat down, and they said, what can we do to get more referrals? And you know what they said? Well, we have to set it as a goal, and then we have to set measures for referrals, and then we have to set timelines, and then we have to give rewards for getting more referrals. So they said, we changed the whole company, and all day, every day, all we thought about is what do we have to do to get referrals? How can we get more referrals from our existing customer base? He said, in the last 9 months, we increased our sales 15 times. He said, we're the fastest growing company of our kind in Sweden and in Scandinavia. He said, it was unbelievable. And that's all people think about is referrals all the time. And they talk about it, and they reward it, and they promote it, and they encourage it, and they ask their customers what they have to do. Anyway, so he went away, and I'm feeling very happy. I mean, I'm a speaker, and this is a great achievement. Another gentleman just kind of strolled up after he had finished speaking and gone away. He said, I didn't want to rain on that man's parade. He said, Swedes speak fluent English. He said, but we increased our sales 34 times with the same technique, with a total nationwide focus on referrals. And then you keep asking, what do we have to do to make people so happy that they go out, they grab their friends by the arm and bring them back. And the very act of defining the problem or defining the goal means it's achievable. And as I'm telling you these things, your minds are probably dancing because you all know how to do it. I was speaking to a room full of senior executives once, and I said, if you have the very, very best customer service, you're going to have an extraordinary career. I said, right. I said, but fortunately, everybody here knows what superb customer service is. And they all stopped. And I said, because you're all experts in customer service because you've been customers all your life. So what I would like you to do is just take a couple of minutes and think, what was the best customer service experience that I can remember having? Or what was the second and the third best? And so they sat down there and they wrote down their best customer experience, a restaurant, a grocery store, a physical fitness studio, a taxi cab, an airline. They wrote them all down, and they discussed them with each other. And I said, no, let's throw them up here. We started writing them down. And it was amazing. The people in that room knew They absolutely knew what a superb customer experience was because they'd all experienced one or more of them in the course of their careers. And so you all know what a superb customer experience would be. So the only question is, are you going to change your order of priority and make that the central focus of your business? Because a referral is 15 times easier to get than a cold call or a brand new customer. So let me finish with the last 6 parts of business profitability. The 6th is management excellence. And the rule is that the best companies have the best managers, the best executives. And Charlie Munger, I was just reading something from him. He's the personal advisor to Warren Buffett, who's now the 4th richest man in the world, was at one time number 1. And he's now the 4th, and he said, he's advised Buffett all his life. He said, if you are not reading continuously to upgrade your skills in your field, you have no chance in the future because you're up against thousands of people who are. They're far more aggressive about upgrading their skills than you. And if they are, basically, as Jack Welch once said, the end is in sight. If you're not continuously learning, so you find that every good big company has management development programs that go on year after year, and every small business person is reading continually to upgrade their skills in their field. They're never satisfied. And finally, the last one, number 7, which is what we talked about, is great customer service. The very best companies and the highest profit companies, because when you're known for great customer service, you can charge more money. And people will come to you more readily, so it's easier to make sales. You can charge more money, make higher profits, and you make them faster and easier simply because you have a reputation for great customer service. I have to tell you something that you probably know about, but I've been on cruises with my family and with my spouse, and some of the cruises, most of the cruises are just sort of average. You know, you get together with the family at dinner and you go on land excursions and so on and so forth. Well, one day we had booked something on one of the Caribbean cruises, and because we had 2 infants under the age of 1, they canceled. They said, no, you can't have an infant on this ship. So we looked around, and the only ship that we could get onto that accepted infants, and we're all planes booked and everything, was a Disney cruise. And the Disney cruise was much more expensive than the regular Caribbean cruise, but it was the only one. We had two married kids, we had 4 grandchildren and everything else. So we went on the Disney cruise, but we went on there with sort of a little bit of reluctance because in the past the cruises have been average and things are fine. But when we checked in for the Disney cruise at the dock, the service was so phenomenal. The people were so nice. They were so helpful. Getting out of the car with the luggage that we looked at each other and everybody in our family was thinking, we want to come back again on this cruise. We want to come back on Disney cruises. Then we checked on. They check you in like you're checking into a 4 Seasons hotel. They take you up to your room. Your luggage all arrives there. For the entire cruise, the service was to cry for. It was just so beautiful. There's not a fleck, not so much as a matchstick or a French fry on the deck anywhere. Everybody was happy. They call it a dream experience, and it was like a dream experience. And everybody who's ever been on a Disney cruise, which costs now 50% more than an ordinary cruise, talks the way I do. Has anybody here been on a Disney cruise for themselves and their family? It's a phenomenal thing. You come back and you're just SMH shaking my head. Can't believe this. You cannot wait to go back. And what did I do when I got back? I called my friends who had children. I said, have you ever been on a Disney cruise? You got to go on a Disney cruise. And you know what? They said, okay. And they went on a Disney cruise and they came back and they called me and said, darn, what's the best family experience of our lives? We're going again. We're bringing our friends. So that's what we want them to do and feel when they become members in your clubs. We want them to have that experience. So that's how they feel. And that's how they talk all the time. And if you do that, I can promise you, you're going to become some of the wealthiest and happiest entrepreneurs and business people in your world. So that's my talk for today, Donna.
That's fantastic. What I would encourage all the rest of you to do is look at the numbers that I asked you to bring. I would like you to think about the division. I'm going to give you this as homework, if you will. Now, you think about the division that you said you wanted to see more money in. You wanted to see the increase in. Just think about that division. You brought it. If you did what I asked you to do in the video, you brought that. I'm then going to ask you to go to the notes that you've taken from Ryan, and I'm going to do what I did. I'm going to ask you, if you didn't already, to star the areas that you think are the most impactful, the ones that made the most impression on you. Then I'm going to ask you to look at that division, go to the last 1, 2, and 3 years, which are the numbers I asked you to bring, and see how you compare to the areas that you've done. To see how you did with comparison to what he said the great companies do. Then I'm going to ask you, again, to look at that same division and say, what can you do to get where Brian is saying to get to in the next year and the next 5 years? So I'm going to say it one more time before we close. Look at the division that I asked you to bring, the one that you said you want the greatest increase in. Then I'm going to ask you to look at the numbers from the last 1, 2, and 3 years and see how they compare to the starred areas, the highlighted areas of your notes based on what Brian taught us about what the great companies do. Then look at the next year and 5 years and ask yourself what you can do to get to this place, to be at this place. And I'll just, to close, I just happen to open my book to one place where I have a star. I've got the upstream, downstream. And I've got, here's where you get rich. It's in the after the sale, not prior to the sale. Although there are certainly things that need to occur prior to the sale, it's after the sale which determines if the person stays, if they buy more, if they bring other people, if they continue on. So you guys have seen our new friend back here, the octopus, our ARMS program that we've been talking to you about, Success 10 Focus, how you've heard of it. That's all after the sale. After 2030, that's all after the sale. And that's where the automatic revenue from multiple streams comes from. And if we have them making those purchases because they're happier, because they're healthier, because they're excited-er, they're going to bring us friends. So, Brian, this was outstanding. I know that when we go into a mastermind type effect with our future owners meeting, we'll be really just delving down into this content and applying it specifically to our businesses. So today, I'm just going to say thank you very much. Guys, send me your feedback, send me your questions. I look forward to sharing more time with you in the future. And for now, I'll say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.